The night was thick with danger. The air smelled of exhaust fumes, sweat, and burning rubber. Loud voices filled the motor garage as reckless drivers cursed at each other and conductors shoved passengers into rusted yellow buses. Lagos never slept, but for some, the night was a hunting ground. A young woman staggered through the shadows, her breath shaky, her body weak. Blood trickled down her thighs. Her dress was torn, her skin bruised. She tried to move, but her legs failed her. She collapsed beside an abandoned Danfo, the cold concrete biting into her skin. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. She had no strength left. Nobody stopped to help. Nobody cared. Lagos was cruel. But this was not how her story would end. Amarachi was a simple girl, a village girl. She had come to Lagos with big dreams. She wanted to make something of herself, to escape the poverty that had chained her family for generations. With just a nylon bag of clothes and a heart full of hope, she had boarded a bus from Anambra, believing Lagos was the land of opportunities. She had no one in the city, except her friend, Kemi. Kemi had promised her a job at a supermarket, a small room to share, and a fresh start. Amarachi had been excited, her heart beating with possibilities. But Lagos was not as welcoming as she had imagined. From the moment she arrived at the motor park, she felt the city's cold grip. The bus conductor had shouted at her for taking too long to step down. Strangers had pushed past her, barely noticing her existence. Even Kemi had not answered her calls. She waited and waited. Minutes turned into hours. The sun had set, and the once busy motor park became a ghost town. Then he appeared. A tall, rough-looking man with bloodshot eyes and a wicked grin. An Agbero, a street thug, one of the many men who ruled the underbelly of Lagos with violence and fear. He reeked of alcohol and sweat, his voice thick with deception. "Sis, you dey fine person?" His smile was not friendly. It was dangerous. "I'm waiting for my friend," Amarachi had answered, her voice small. The man laughed. "This Lagos no be today wado. Make I help you? I sabi everywhere." She shook her head. "No, thank you." He didn't like that answer. She turned to walk away, but he grabbed her wrist. "Why you dey form?" Fear crawled up her spine. She yanked her hand back and started walking faster. But he followed. She tried to run, but Lagos was unkind to a lost village girl in the night. She never saw the others coming. 3 of them. They dragged her into the shadows, their hands rough, their laughter cruel. The darkness swallowed her screams. Pain, darkness, terror. When it was over, she lay there, broken. They had taken everything, her innocence, her dignity, her hope. And then they left her bleeding in the dirt like she was nothing. The world moved on. Buses kept honking. People kept walking. Lagos didn't stop for the broken. But in that moment of pain, her story was just beginning. Because someone was watching. Someone who would change everything. The wind howled through the empty motor garage, whistling between the rusted Danfo buses and cracked pavements. The neon lights of a distant billboard flickered weakly, casting a sickly glow on Amarachi's lifeless body. She was still breathing, but just barely. Pain was all she knew. It consumed her, swallowed her whole. Her arms were too weak to lift. Her legs felt like they had been ripped apart. She had tried to cry, but even her tears had abandoned her. The night was cruel. The city was merciless. She heard footsteps, heavy, slow. Someone was coming. Her heart pounded weakly against her ribs. Was it them again? Had they returned to finish what they started? She wanted to run, to hide, but she couldn't even lift a finger. The footsteps stopped. A deep, commanding voice broke the silence. Jesus Christ. A man knelt beside her, his breath warm against her cold skin. She couldn't see his face clearly, but his scent was different. Not like the stench of sweat and alcohol that had clung to her attackers. He smelled clean, expensive, like leather and foreign perfume. "Can you hear me?" Amarachi tried to speak, but nothing came out. The man swore under his breath. "What kind of wickedness is this?" He turned to someone else. "Call the driver. Tell him to bring the car here immediately." A few minutes later, the hum of an engine filled the night. The bright headlights of a black SUV cut through the darkness. 2 men rushed out, one in a suit, the other in a security uniform. They looked shocked at the sight before them. "Sir," the one in the suit began. "No questions." "Help me lift her," the first man ordered. The men hesitated. "But sir, now." Without another word, they obeyed. Amarachi felt herself being lifted, her body screaming in pain as they carefully carried her into the car. The leather seats were soft beneath her broken body, a strange contrast to the nightmare she had just escaped. The car door shut. The man sat beside her. Drive. The SUV roared to life, speeding off into the night. The pain was too much. The car rocked gently as it moved, but every tiny shift sent shockwaves of agony through her body. She faded in and out of consciousness, catching glimpses of the man beside her. His phone rang. "She's in bad shape," he said into the receiver. "Tell Dr. Phillips to prepare the private ward. I don't want any press involved." A pause. "No, I don't know who she is. Just do as I say." His voice was deep, authoritative, used to giving orders and being obeyed. He wasn't just some ordinary man. Whoever he was, he had power. And for some reason, he had chosen to help her. The hospital doors flew open as they arrived. A team of doctors and nurses were already waiting, their faces tense with concern. "Careful with her," the man warned as they wheeled Amarachi inside. "She's lost a lot of blood." "Yes, sir," a nurse nodded, quickly guiding them to a private ward. The hospital was unlike anything Amarachi had ever seen. It smelled of clean linen and antiseptic. The floors gleamed, and the walls were painted a calming shade of blue. This was no ordinary hospital. It was high class, exclusive, the kind of place where only the rich and powerful received treatment. Who was this man? As the doctors worked, Amarachi's vision blurred. The bright surgical lights burned her eyes, and the voices around her became distant echoes. Then, everything went black. She woke up to warmth, soft sheets, a thick duvet, the steady beep of a heart monitor. Slowly, she opened her eyes. The ceiling was high, the room spacious. A large window let in golden morning light, and a soft breeze carried the scent of fresh flowers. She wasn't in the motor park anymore. She wasn't in pain. She was alive, and she wasn't alone. Sitting in a chair by the window was the man who had saved her. He was dressed in a crisp white shirt, the sleeves rolled up to reveal strong, toned arms. His dark eyes were fixed on her, unreadable yet intense. His sharp jawline, high cheekbones, and neatly trimmed beard gave him an air of elegance and power. Amarachi swallowed. Where am I?" His lips pressed into a thin line. Safe. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through her ribs. A small gasp escaped her lips. "Don't." His voice was firm but not unkind. "You need to rest." She sank back into the pillows, studying him carefully. Who are you?" A pause. Then, Nathaniel Adeyemi. The name sent a jolt through her. She had heard that name before. Everyone had. Nathaniel Adeyemi was one of the wealthiest men in Lagos, a billionaire, a man whose name was always in the news, whose businesses stretched across the country. And he had saved her? Her heart pounded. Why? Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Why did you help me?" His expression was unreadable. He leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "Because I was there." His eyes darkened. "And because I don't turn my back on injustice." A lump formed in Amarachi's throat. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. She didn't want to cry, not in front of him. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Nathaniel shook his head. "You don't have to. Just get better." The room fell into silence. Amarachi stared at her hands, still trying to process everything. Just yesterday, she had been lying in the dirt, bleeding and alone. Now, she was in a private hospital, rescued by one of the most powerful men in the country. Was this a dream? But as she looked into Nathaniel's piercing gaze, she knew one thing for sure. Her life would never be the same again. Amarachi sat in silence, her fingers gripping the soft bedsheets. The events of the past day felt like a blurred nightmare, one that had broken her body and almost shattered her spirit. But here she was, alive, in a luxurious hospital room, saved by a billionaire. She had so many questions. Why had Nathaniel Adeyemi helped her? What did he want in return? Was this kindness, or was there something more? Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, studying her. His presence was commanding, his expression unreadable. "How are you feeling?" Amarachi hesitated. She was in pain, but it was nothing compared to what she had been through. "Better, I think." He nodded. "Good." He glanced at his wristwatch. "Dr. Phillips will be here soon to check on you. If you need anything, just tell the nurses." Amarachi lowered her gaze. "I don't have money to pay for this treatment." Nathaniel's eyes darkened. "I didn't ask you to pay." Her heart pounded. She didn't want to be indebted to a man like him. Men always wanted something in return. That was the way the world worked. "I don't understand," she said carefully. Why are you doing this? Nathaniel sighed. What happened to you was wrong. I don't ignore things like that. His voice was calm, but Amarachi sensed something deeper beneath it. Anger, maybe even guilt. Why would a man like him care about a nobody-luddy like her? Before she could ask, the door opened, and an older man in a white coat walked in. Dr. Phillips. You're awake, the doctor said warmly, checking her pulse. That's a good sign. How do you feel? Amarachi gave a small nod. Still sore. You lost a lot of blood, but with rest, you'll recover. He glanced at Nathaniel. She'll need at least 2 weeks of proper care. Nathaniel nodded. Make sure she gets everything she needs. Amarachi's heart squeezed. 2 weeks? She whispered. She had no money, no home, no one to turn to. What would happen after 2 weeks? The doctor finished his checkup and left. Nathaniel remained seated, watching her carefully. Where do you live? He finally asked. She hesitated. I don't have a place. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He exhaled, rubbing his forehead as if deep in thought. You can stay here until you recover. Amarachi's breath caught. Stay here? In this expensive hospital? Why? She shook her head. I can't. You don't have a choice. His tone was firm, final. Her chest tightened. She wasn't used to kindness. Life had taught her that nothing came for free, but right now she had nowhere else to go. She looked away, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you. Nathaniel didn't respond immediately. He just watched her, his expression unreadable. Then, without another word, he stood and walked to the door. I have a meeting, he said. Rest. And then he was gone. Days passed, and Amarachi's strength slowly returned. The pain lessened, and the bruises on her body started to fade. The nurses were kind, the food was unlike anything she had ever eaten before, and the room felt like something out of a dream. But the nightmares remained. She would wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. The memory of that night haunted her. The cruel laughter, the pain, the helplessness. She hated feeling weak. One evening, Nathaniel visited again. He had been busy, always in meetings, always on the phone. But every night he would come. He never stayed long, never asked unnecessary questions. He just sat there, watching her. You're quiet today, he said, breaking the silence. Amarachi glanced at him. I'm just thinking. About what? She hesitated. My life. Nathaniel's gaze sharpened. What about it? She swallowed hard. I came to Lagos for a better future. I wanted to work, to send money home. But look at me. She laughed bitterly. I have nothing. Nathaniel studied her for a long moment. Then he said something that shocked her. What if I help you? She froze. Help me? Yes. He leaned forward. You said you wanted a better future. I can make that happen. Amarachi's heart pounded. Why? Nathaniel exhaled. I've built businesses. I've given people opportunities, but sometimes the people who need help the most never get it. His voice was low, serious. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. That shouldn't define your future. Amarachi stared at him. Could she trust him? Was this real? Nathaniel checked his watch. Think about it. When you're ready, we'll talk. And just like that, he was gone again. Amarachi sat in silence, her heart racing. This man had saved her life. Now he was offering to change it. But was she ready to let him? Amarachi lay awake in the dimly lit hospital room, her mind in turmoil. Nathaniel's offer replayed in her head like a song stuck on repeat. I can make that happen. What did that mean? Was he offering her a job, a place to stay, or something else entirely? She had spent her life struggling, clawing for survival in a city that didn't care whether she lived or died. And now a man like Nathaniel Adeyemi, a billionaire, was offering her a new path. But why? What did he see in her? She turned on her side, staring at the ceiling. The truth was, she had nothing to lose. A week passed, and Amarachi regained her strength. The bruises on her body faded, but the scars inside remained. Nathaniel visited every evening, but he never pressured her for an answer. He only observed as if waiting for her to decide on her own. Finally, one evening, she found the courage to speak. I want to know, she said, looking him in the eye. How exactly do you want to help me? Nathaniel set down his phone and folded his arms. Tell me, Amarachi, what do you want for your life? She hesitated. No one had ever asked her that before. I just wanted to work, to build something for myself, to send money to my mother in the village. Her voice was soft. I don't want to be a victim forever. Nathaniel nodded. Good. He leaned forward slightly. I own several businesses, including a foundation that helps women who have been through similar situations. Amarachi's breath caught. You do? Yes. His gaze was steady. I can get you counseling, training, and a job if you're willing to work for it. A job. A real chance at something new. Amarachi swallowed hard. I don't want pity. This isn't pity, he said firmly. This is a second chance. She stared at him, emotion swirling in her chest. Did she deserve a second chance? Nathaniel glanced at his watch. Think about it. He stood up. Tomorrow, I'll take you to one of my offices. You can decide from there. She watched as he walked to the door. Nathaniel, she called softly. He paused, turning slightly. Thank you. He gave a small nod. Get some rest. And then he was gone. The next morning, a car arrived at the hospital for her. It was a sleek black SUV, the kind she had only seen in movies. A uniformed driver opened the door. Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am? No one had ever called her that before. She hesitated for a moment before stepping in. As the car moved through the busy Lagos streets, Amarachi felt like she was in another world. The slums she had once struggled in felt distant now. The past was fading, and something new was ahead. 30 minutes later, the car pulled up in front of a massive glass building in Victoria Island. Amarachi stepped out, staring in awe. Was this really happening? A well-dressed woman approached her with a warm smile. Miss Amarachi, welcome. Mr. Adeyemi is waiting for you. Amarachi followed her inside. Everything was polished, sleek, and elegant. People in expensive suits walked past her, speaking in hushed tones. She felt small, out of place. But she lifted her chin. This was a new beginning. She was led into a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Nathaniel sat behind a large desk, reviewing some documents. He looked up and smiled slightly. You came. Amarachi nodded. I did. Nathaniel gestured to a chair. Sit. She did, trying to steady her breathing. I'll be direct, he said. You'll start training under my foundation. You'll learn business, finance, and management. If you work hard, I'll give you a job in one of my companies. Amarachi's heart pounded. You mean I'll be working here? Not immediately, Nathaniel said. You have to prove yourself first, she exhaled. Okay, I'm ready. Nathaniel's lips twitched in what almost looked like a smile. Good. He handed her a folder. Your training starts tomorrow. Amarachi took the folder with shaky hands. A week ago, she had been left for dead in a motor garage. Now she was sitting in a billionaire's office, being offered a future. She wasn't sure what fate had in store for her, but one thing was clear. She was never going back to the life she had before. This was just the beginning. The next morning, Amarachi stood in front of a tall mirror in a luxurious guest room Nathaniel had arranged for her in one of his company-owned apartments. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her. Gone were the tattered clothes and the defeated look in her eyes. Now, she wore a crisp white blouse and tailored trousers, a simple yet elegant outfit chosen for her by the personal assistant Nathaniel had assigned to help her transition into this new world. Her heart pounded. Today was the first day of her training at the Adeyemi Foundation for Women's Empowerment. She took a deep breath. This is your second chance, Amarachi. Don't waste it. The Foundation's training center was a modern facility, bustling with women from different backgrounds, all eager to change their lives. Amarachi was placed in a business and finance class, where she learned skills she never thought she'd need: budgeting, management, public speaking, and leadership. At first, it was overwhelming. The terms, the strategies, it all felt foreign. But Amarachi was determined. She studied harder than anyone, staying up late into the night to review her lessons. Nathaniel watched from a distance. He had helped many women before, but there was something about Amarachi that was different. She had a fire in her, an unstoppable will. He knew that if she stayed on this path, she would do great things. Months passed, and Amarachi transformed. She no longer walked with the fear of a woman who had been broken. She carried herself with confidence. She spoke with clarity. She became one of the top students in the program. And when the training period ended, Nathaniel made an announcement at the Foundation's graduation ceremony. I have watched these women grow and develop skills they never thought they had, he said, standing before an audience of trainees and guests. And today, I am proud to say that one of them has proven herself beyond expectations. He turned to face Amarachi, who was seated in the front row. Amarachi Okonkwo, he called. The entire hall went silent. Amarachi's hands trembled as she stood. Nathaniel's gaze was steady. You are the best performing candidate in this program. And for that, I am offering you a full-time position in one of my companies as a junior executive. A gasp echoed in the hall. Tears filled Amarachi's eyes. For years, she had fought to survive in a world that tried to break her. Now she was being given a position in one of Lagos's top companies. She walked up to the stage, barely able to hold back her emotions. She took the microphone and, for the first time, spoke with confidence. Months ago, I was nothing. I had no hope, no future. I was left to die in a place where no one cared if I lived or not. But today I stand here as proof that life can change, that no matter how broken you are, there is always a way to rise again. The crowd erupted into applause. Nathaniel smiled. Amarachi had won. Not just the job, not just the position. She had won her life back. Her first day at Adeyemi Holdings was surreal. She was assigned a sleek office, a personal assistant, and a mentor to guide her through the corporate world. It was hard work, but she thrived. Within a year, she climbed the ranks, proving herself to be one of the most valuable employees in the company. And then came the day that changed everything. Nathaniel called her into his office. She walked in, her head held high, now a woman of power and confidence. "Sit," he said. She did. Nathaniel leaned back. "There's something I need to discuss with you." Amarachi nodded, waiting. "I am stepping down as CEO of Adeyemi Holdings." Her eyes widened. "Sir?" He smiled. "I have spent years building this company, but it is time for me to focus on something else. And I want you to take my place as managing director." Her breath caught. "Me?" "Yes, you," Nathaniel said, his voice calm but firm. "I've watched you grow, Amarachi. You have the intelligence, the drive, and the heart to lead, and I believe you are the best person for this role." Tears welled up in her eyes. From a forgotten girl in a Lagos motor park to the head of a billion-dollar company, it felt like a dream. But it was real, and she was ready. 1 year later, the name Amarachi Okonkwo became a symbol of hope for women across Nigeria. She used her position to help other victims like herself, funding shelters, starting businesses for struggling women, and changing lives. She became a force of nature. And one day, standing on the balcony of her luxurious office, looking out over the city that had once swallowed her whole, she smiled. "This is just the beginning.